Imagine, if you will, a podcast made to discuss tabletop and trading card games. Imagine that as you listen, it diverges to discussions that border on the unhinged, and then suddenly you realise you're listening to the Boardcast.
Ooh, look at that. That describes us perfectly.
It's so close to like a David Attenborough, like a sign off. I'm very, very.
No,
on board.
it's what's his face? The X.
Oh yeah,
Files.
what's his face? Oh yeah.
I was going for Futurama, the Scary Door.
Oh, the Scary Door stuff. Yes. But isn't the Scary Door a reference to an
that's
old-timey
exactly what it
TV show?
is. Yeah, like Twilight Zone, that sort of stuff.
They used to give it that transatlantic voice.
Twilight Zone is what else? Yeah.
Twilight Zone, that's the show. There we go. Good catch, guys. Welcome back onto the podcast, Greg.
What's going on, Greg? Who are you not?
Much. Anyway, nothing much, so I'll catch you guys later.
So, we've had a pretty successful last Sunday as well. I know. So, Greg, last time you were on the podcast, you mentioned you used to run Wax LAN, like a organized WA Xbox LAN event back in the, was it 2010-ish era?
It was essentially Xbox 360 era.
Xbox 360
Wax LAN still
era.
makes me feel like it's a theme park where you go get waxing. So you know what I mean? Like it's Wax LAN, let's go. I know it's not leaving land.
Just leave me out of your fantasy.
A few years ago, I got my legs waxed for Northern Boards. Remember that one?
How's that going? Like, did it all grow back where it's supposed to be?
Of course.
I go like
Not gonna lie, I don't have a lot of experience in waxing. Wow, surprise! I looked into it. Like, does hair grow back after waxing? We're good. It grows back.
When I was living in my share house, I lived with a guy who was a male stripper, and I was hanging out with a bunch of other male strippers.
So male strippers, they gotta wax
and
everything, right?
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of waxing. And I finally got convinced to like shave my like arm hair and chest hair because that's what they were all doing, like being buff muscle guys. So I like shaved my arms and my chest hair, and my arm hair used to like really curl around my arm the way it grew. And when I shaved it and it grew back, now it's all wild and it's all like. It just doesn't. You
fucked it up.
Yeah, I fucked it up. I fucked up the grain, I guess, of my arm hair. And instead of it being nice and thingy, now I've got like weird like snowman arms where they just grows out all like straggly. And I'm like, oh, fuck my arm up. Plus, when I was with girls, they were like, this is terrible because it's like instead of it being soft and cushiony, it's just hell scratchy. It's like it's regrowth just all over my body.
Yeah.
I had regrowth all over my body. People were not a fan, so I've been maintained hairy as fuck ever since then. So.
Well, I'm going to refrain from participating in the waxing conversation because I've got a wife and a 16-year-old daughter, and I've learned way more about waxing than I want to know.
True.
Yeah, there's something that's about me that is very glad that I have a 14-year-old boy, not a 14-year-old girl. I don't need any of that nonsense.
I'm not even going to pretend I know anything about the topic, but I do know Xbox. All right, so
before we move on too far from there, I had a friend that people know, and he lives with a bunch of teenage girls. And
hold on, stop.
No, daughter situation, right?
Okay,
and,
good clarification. Saved.
There's at least 2 daughters, and obviously the mother, and they put a bunch of at the end of the day, they put their bin stuff out for the bin to get collected. And one of the girls left the bin open. And when he came out on the yard, the bin chickens had got into the bin and there was sanitary pads all over the yard.
No.
And the bin chickens were eating them and they were getting thrown around everywhere and shit. So he wasn't very impressed. He had to do some hard cleanup before the neighbors saw what was going on.
That's not a great sight. Bins open, birds everywhere, blood's everywhere.
Yeah, we always like a good bin chicken, escapades here on the Boardcast.
I thought I needed less reasons to hate bin chickens.
I like that, go back 7,000 years and they were adored as gods in Egypt. It's like, well, how did they get it so wrong? Yeah.
I don't know. Because they didn't have bins back then, I guess.
Like, bin chickens aren't evolving. 7,000 years ago, they're just getting around being fucking nuisances back in Egypt. Like, they're not any better now than they were then.
I'm pretty sure they just dumped all their rubbish in the river anyway, so that's where they live. They probably thought them was gods because they cleaned all the shit up.
I assume 7,000 years ago, their food was their rubbish was more organic than it is now.
Yeah, they just ate everything.
It's not like a Ganges river now where they just pour their
They definitely didn't have tampon pads back then.
Anyway. Didn't the river run red at one stage?
Yeah.
Did it? Wait, isn't that in the Bible? Yeah. So last time you were on, Greg, we talked about doing the LAN thing again. I think we come from the generation where each of us have experienced multiplayer LAN gaming, right? We were a bit nostalgic about it, and we had the great idea of let's try and bring it back on the boards. Last Sunday, we did it. We had a Halo Infinite LAN and on the boards. We had, I think, a grand total of 8 players came up.
Yeah, it was
but
fucking sick.
It's 8 players with interchanging coming in and out. So we had about 12 players hot seating playing. About a fair amount of Xboxes come down.
Yeah, and we just mixed all the teams up to try and keep it all balanced.
Absolutely.
And have fun.
Yeah. So big shout out to you, Greg. Thank you very much for that one. I know Danny had a huge amount of fun.
I had a great time.
We had immense positive feedback from the community, and for myself, I'm just super impressed our internet held up. there was a brief moment where leading into the LAN day, I was like, man, I'm really hoping that our internet just doesn't die.
That's why I was like, in the future we'll charge for spots just like the same as we do for tables. I didn't do it this time because I was a little concerned that it wasn't going to hold up, and I wanted to make sure that we coasted in this first one like casually and made sure everything works as expected.
I am fairly confident we can rock 12 devices connected, no problems at all. I think 12 is a good healthy medium. I think anything past that, we might have to start using hotspots.
Like we did Halo, which I'm a big fan of, but we've had a lot of requests for other games. So I'm excited to see what other what other things we can.
Top 3 games you want to see at Northern Boards Wax LAN. Number 1.
Halo Master Chief Collection.
All right. Number
Halo
2.
Infinite.
Halo Wars.
Number 3. What about yourself, Danny?
Nev had a great idea that we should do like a WoW raid, but all in the same room. I think if we get our PCs together, even if you don't even if you're not again, I think the biggest thing here is like doing it here in a group with other people and being able to like see each other and laugh about it. So doing like a WoW raid at a low level with like just
so as a complete WoW noob,
yeah.
do I have to be max level to do a raid? Like levels, I know level 60 is the classic.
I think what you would do is do like a marathon thing where you start, because leveling is so quick in the game, you just start a bunch of people. As long as 1 or 2 people have an account already, you just get everyone to do like a free account for the day. And then you just start at the first dungeon and move to the next dungeon and move to the next dungeon. And you just go as far as you can essentially for the night, right? So it's like you basically have to pick up and use the gear of whatever you've got at the time.
My image is still that South Park episode.
It's actually doing it that way is the closest you get to that as possible, because like normally end game for like these games is like hundreds of hours of like grinding to get specific gear, whereas when you do that marathon, everyone's got new characters, it's a real shit show. You're getting murdered left, right, and center. But the idea is here, if you're all in a room together,
no one wants to be healer.
It's all a bit of a laugh, right? So and arguably the leveling in WoW and gearing in WoW has become significantly easier. So it's not, it won't be anywhere near as much of a slog as it used to be before.
What about number 2 you want to see?
It's been a while, but I haven't played it. But the new Marvel Rivals looks really good.
I think
that'd be team-based.
That's actually a lot of fun.
I haven't played it, but I think as it's something, it's new, so people will have it, and it's obviously like Marvel's a fairly like
it's a free game.
It's a free game.
Oh, well, even better, yeah. Well, I like it's obviously like in the zeitgeist and how it's popular.
It's
at the
a
moment,
heavily team-based game, so it makes sense in a LAN setting. What about number 3?
I think Halo's always going to be up there for me, but I think we'll keep that as a top one. I really want to get some return of like Star Wars Battlefront. I'd love to play some Star Wars Battlefront. I played so much with Lucas when I was like my son when he was younger, and I've real fondness for like the Star Wars Battlefront games.
Well, we upgraded you to Game Pass standards.
Yeah, we did.
Have access to it now.
My child has access to it. But no, it was actually really good. Like Lucas came down and he normally just like plays FIFA and stuff like that, but we convinced him to play some Halo and he had a bit of fun as well. So it was good. I actually had a really great time, and it unlocked an unfortunate thing in me that I remembered that I enjoyed playing video games, and like especially like shooters and stuff, which I've managed to successfully forget for a while, which is good because I don't necessarily have that free time to spend on that. So maybe it was like
you're going through what I was like a year ago, where I'm starting to phase out of video games.
It's not that I don't want to do it; it's that like time wise, it's not the best use of my very minimal free time.
You should still enjoy it, right? There's no reason not to enjoy the things you like, rather than trying to fight it.
Absolutely. And like once the boys had packed up and most people had gone home, 4 of us stayed behind. It was your cousin and then Red and Connor and I stayed behind, and we jumped into Master Chief Collection and we played online against other people. Nice. And we were mostly playing online with other people that really knew what was going on. But so we got fucking railed. I remember, I'm not mad, not actual mad, but I was having like a I don't know, exuberant hissy fit because I just only got assists in the entire for like a run of 2 or 3 games, and it looked like I wasn't contributing at all. And I went through the menus because Master Chief Collection goes through all the different games together, and they all log how the kills are like it was shown separately. So I had to go find my assist that I could prove to other guys that it wasn't a complete waste of time.
The Master Chief Collection has a weird backwards effect where finding games of Halo Infinite in Australia is really, really hard.
Why? Do you know why that is?
The Halo Infinite population is doing super great, and especially in Australia, I feel like we already have a small population of gamers, so people kind of tend to badmag into whatever's available and popular.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter what's better. It's just what people are playing.
Because I played a lot of Halo Infinite. I played a lot.
It feels really good.
I played a lot of Halo Infinite because it gave me that early Halo vibes, the way it plays. But the problem is that it's an online service, and the way that they did the battle pass has just rubbed the entire Halo audience the wrong way.
When other games started to appear, I could see the population start to migrate, and it got to the point where you can still play Halo Infinite, don't get it wrong, but you have to be okay with playing with other countries, and you're going to be playing around 200 ping. 200 to 300 ping, which is, it's playable, but it doesn't feel great. You will throw a grenade and you can see it.
You can see it.
lag.
Wait, yeah. You'll do the throw animation, and then you'll wait like half a second, and then you'll see the grenade go.
Oh, cool.
And when you're someone like me who loves sticking people with grenades, it's not a fun experience to watch it go to where they were.
A couple guns get really rough. What's the one where it lobs the kind of like plasma explosives?
Oh, yeah. The plasma cannon, is that what you're talking about?
I believe it has a name to it, but yeah, you're very similar to like it's plasma cannon, and it basically lobs explosives. And if you're playing with 300 ping, you just can't aim the thing because it's a projectile.
Well, my favorite way to play on Halo is SWAT. I don't know what's if it's still called SWAT.
It's called
Infinite?
Tactical on Infinite.
It's basically when you shoot them with the battle rifle when they die effectively straight away. Because I'm really good. I'm not too bad at interaction, like reactions and hunting people down, like moving around the map. But I'm really bad in the duel. Like I always lose the duel.
Yep.
And it's like
you have to punch the shields down and then kill them.
Yeah, and it's like I'll run up. I like multiple times. I'll run up to someone, shooting them from behind, and then they just turn around and kill me. And I'm like, why am I so bad at this? But at least with like the tactical, the SWAT, it's like you just murk them. You come around and kind of murk them, and I'm like pretty good. It's funny, in some games it makes it much worse, the color blindness, and in other games it feels like a bit of an advantage because like Call of Duty was sometimes bad, right? Because there's a lot of bushes, a lot of like, I don't know, like more real terrain where camouflage makes it a lot harder. I couldn't see shit. I remember sitting on the couch next to my mate Jordan when we were playing Call of Duty together. And he'd be like, fucking shoot the guy, he's right there. And I'm like, where's the fucking guy? Yep. And then I die, and you know, like it pans to the person that killed you. He's just standing in front of me, and I'm like, oh fuck, he's in the mildest version of a bush or some shit. But in Halo, it's a lot more like alien like scapes. So there's a lot of like horizons.
Visual cloudy is super high.
Yeah, like there's a lot of horizons where someone will duck over horizon and it's like ground to sky, so you can see the movement, or like against like a purple backdrop of like an alien piece of technology or whatever. And it's like all of that
clear, defined.
Yeah, it's much more defined lines of where
Halo maintains the old school like Unreal Tournament Quake style, where it's just an arena shooter. You spawn in with guns that are fine, serviceable, but you have to run around the map, a lot of movement to get to the good guns, and then trying to play. So the map is a big part of the game.
Controlling those points and everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention Tactical Slay or SWAT being your favorite. When I played Halo Infinite a lot, me and my mates played a lot of ranked, and we play on PC, which means people have access to keyboard and mouses.
Yep.
The problem was with keyboard and mouse is that you're very fast and very accurate, and Tactical Slay became you die in 0.1 second.
Yeah, it's like everyone's hitting the ground. Yeah,
but I'm with you on the Tactical Slayer, and I think that was the only game I top fragged in the whole night.
Yeah,
but that's because I've been like giving myself. I've been playing, Marvel Rivals, and I played X Defiant for a while, and then they dumped that. And then
I think
recently,
Ubisoft is shutting down.
They shut it down. Yeah.
What is that? What's X Defiant?
So basically, Ubisoft took a whole bunch of their
it's a Call of Duty clone
titles and just did like a class based sort of battle.
Okay.
But yeah, it just wasn't popular because it was like another one to the mix that was.
The problem is X Defiant came out, I think, like a couple of weeks before Black Ops 6 Call of Duty came out.
So it's very much in that like modern warfare kind of like,
and then the immediate moment Call of Duty Black Ops 6 came out,
just no one.
The game died.
Really?
Black Ops 6 is I think I read a statistic somewhere where a month after release, it's still like the #1 top selling game in a bunch of countries.
It's still the most bro game ever. Like all my mates who don't play other hobby stuff, that's, when they go get their PlayStation or Xbox, that's what they're playing,
At the moment, I'm playing Black Ops 6 and I'm not even a Call of Duty gamer.
I've always had enjoyed all of them. Somewhere in the mid 2000s, they took out their colorblind mode, which made it much harder. So I had some time off.
Yeah.
And then when I came out, it was like, I can't remember which game it was, but maybe like 2000 and what are we now? 2024. So maybe 2012 to 16, somewhere in there. One of the versions came out and didn't have a colorblind mode in it at all.
So you're
I was like, well, I guess I'm out.
You're talking probably
that's
like
really
Black
weird
Ops
because
1.
one of my regular guys that I get with
3.
is also colorblind, and he didn't whinge about any.
Almost all of them have a colorblind mode where you can change like the like the
there's like the 3 different modes. That you
yeah,
can
the modes
change
in there,
between.
and it just basically just cuts out some of the things because like the thing is like with colorblind mode, like colorblind is like everyone's like there's different types of colorblind, and it's just you just need to pick the one color that it has for you, and it will just redefine some of the colors so it's more.
We're
like, there's a
going
bit of
back to
clarity.
games having pretty good colorblind modes. I think Marvel Rivals has a pretty extensive colorblind mode as well. So, and that game has a lot of visual clutter. So I think a colorblind mode helps a lot.
Yeah, I did notice that even on like Halo Infinite, there was a lot of stuff going on, and like even the gun, some of the gun customizations have those little toggles or like keychains that sit on the side, and it shoots, and I'm like shooting, and I'm like all I can see is the fucking that thing's waggling around. I'm like that's so like annoying.
I had to disable those those like customization like accessories, the keychain, because I had the same thing. It kept distracting me while I was trying to play.
Yeah, like it should be looking for a guy moving, but I'm watching this little thing move around.
I have the exact opposite issue where I can't see what's going on outside behind what's except what's in my reticule.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite moment of the Halo LAN? Starting with you, Greg, do you have a favorite highlight?
Towards the end, when we'd played all the ones that I'd put on the wheel of names for us to play, we did a sumo battle.
So describe sumo for us.
So essentially what it was it's a map that just slowly gets smaller and smaller, but it's just like a square platform, and you have everybody in warthogs, and the idea is to push everybody else off
so
the
it's like a mini game mode.
Yeah.
Halo Forge mini game.
And I enjoyed that immensely, but I was ripped off by Connor because Connor didn't drive onto the platform properly and he couldn't move, and it was the one round that I actually
So
won.
he got glitched in spot.
So what happens is everybody starts on an upper platform. This was actually my favorite thing as well. Like, everyone starts on an upper platform. The idea is you drive off that platform into a central platform. Now it's a small jump. You can fuck it up, but theoretically you shouldn't. And then you jump into a central platform. That central platform slowly drops away, and then it gets down to smaller. Basically, there's only one spot left where only one walker can fit. So eventually someone will get kicked out. Right?
So like sumo, like the name sumo implies, you kind of wrestling each other off the ring.
Yeah, just all you're doing is trying to shove each other out, right? Connor drives off too slowly and gets kind of like caught on an angle on the way down. But theoretically, what would happen there is that platform will eventually drop away, but it glitched and it didn't. So he just got stuck in there, but he also couldn't move.
He found the cheat mode.
Neither of his wheels were touching.
He
couldn't reverse or drive forward.
So like a person in a spud shed car park, they've gone up the curb and now they can't go anywhere. And so he got stuck there. And basically, we all just had to bully Greg because Greg had managed to push everyone else off the sumo
It's like
thing.
the only round I won. And it's like,
and the platform below is falling away, but it's because there's no action now. It's falling away super slow. Like it was like a tiny block of it a minute. And we were all like, well, want to go to the next one, Greg? So we're like yelling at Greg to finish, right? And eventually, like, because Connor literally can't do anything, Greg takes one for the team and throws himself off the edge like the honorable man that he is. And then we all agreed the next turn that we would all just drive off the edge to give Greg the win, which we obviously didn't honor because fucking
they didn't honor it. But the worst thing was that Connor went to like the bathroom or get a drink, and he won the next round.
Connor went to move his car.
AFK won.
Yeah, because
that's supreme victory.
In the top platform where you drive the car off of, you start with 2 people on there. So you have a brief window of trying to knock someone else off there. So Connor's like, I'm going to go move my car. And I'm like, well, fuck that guy. So I drive my warthog into the side of his warthog and smash him. And he goes flying. And I drive too fast off the edge. So I'm out straight away. Yeah. But Connor's car gets stuck like directly parallel down. So it's touching the top thing and the bottom one. And then in the meantime, everyone else is wrestling on the floor, knocks each other off. And Connor's out in his car, moving his car, and he wins the game. No, he's never touched the controller once. And he comes back and he's like, oh, my score's high. I'm already on to the next game.
What about yourself, Danny? Do you have a favorite moment of the day?
The car mini games at the end was actually very fun. Nice. And I think for us,
and
was a way to unload
that we did as well, where it was like the tunnel where you were
I was too stupid to know how to make that work at all.
So all I realized was like, if you drive straight down because your wheels are on the ground all the time, you're not going as fast as the people who are
flying
through it.
The problem is I was really trying to stop that happening.
You had to go near someone to hit you with a hammer to start you rolling and flying, and that's how you kept going faster.
Well, I know it was the like I tried to do it for like 2-3 minutes and couldn't figure it out. And I was like, fuck this shit. And then I was like, look, my son's there, Lucas, he starts playing it and he plays about 2-3 minutes. And he's like, oh, this is stupid. And I'm like, it's like watching my own ADHD in live action. It's like if I can't master a task in about 2.5 minutes, like this is a stupid task. So we both came up there and sat and watched the end of that one. But the mini games were very fun. But I think the biggest thing for me was
they're a nice kind of like a break between the regular gameplay as an unwinder. Because what I noticed on the day is that naturally, everyone comes down, people have played Halo at different like amounts, or some people were just better than others. You get a different like a comparison of skill levels as well.
Yeah.
So I think the more casual modes were a nice way to kind of break it up.
Yeah, and I was mixing up the teams as well, trying to split everybody
For sure.
up. And I started to pick up that some people were good at like objective ones, and other people were good at just killing. So I was trying to mix it up.
Do you have a favorite moment?
For me, it's like when we were playing. It's actually when we packed up at the end and we were playing the 4 together. Like we were playing people online and we were fucking bad
because
at
you
it.
guys were all together. You can unite against the online sweaty guys.
It was that kind of thing. It was like where they were clearly better than us, and they were like, it was like 40 kills to 10 or something.
Yeah.
But like at some point, Connor's like, "Hey, we should just work together," as if that wasn't something we should be doing in the first place. And he's like, "We should work together." So we started like talking to each other and telling each other where the people are and giving directions. And you could see us getting slightly better every game.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was watching the football with my son, so we left at 10 o'clock. But it's like I reckon if we'd played another maybe 47 hours, we would have won a game. Like we were on the way. We were on the trajectory to getting to a win. But it was very fun. It's like a good moment of like it kind of like we should just like talk to each other. And we're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
The funny thing about that is Braden, who stayed behind, who was my nephew. He is someone I play with regularly, and he professes to be a great communicator, but he's actually one of the worst ones when I play with. So it doesn't surprise me that you're saying we should communicate with each other, because Braden's like, oh, he's at the thing, or just to my right, he's to my right, and it's just like, dude, I don't even know which one I am, let alone which one you are.
He'd be like, he's on top of the platform. I'm like, what platform? This is a bunch of square blocks, man. What does that mean?
The classic example I give is I play with a lot of mates where we have to play team-based games, and there's always the classic example of someone will shout out, he's low, he's one shot from death, and I'll walk into the room, shoot the guy 17 times. You liar! He's full health.
It's full health. There was actually another mini game we played. It was on a map with the running around, but you started with like these handheld canisters that explode when you throw them.
Oh, that's Donkey Kong mode.
I found it. I just found a spot on the top of the map where you could just jump up and down really fast because it's like lower gravity. So I just jump up and down constantly and just ping them in every direction. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're hell good at this." I'm like, "No, I'm fucking not." I'm just jumping and thinking, and I'm like, spamming the shit out of them. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're doing hell good." And I'm like, I was in the corner, the TV over in the corner. No one else could see what I was doing, and I was like, "Yes, excellent skills."
So what happens with the lower population games is that most people that tend to stick around are the people that are good at their games.
Yes, yeah.
Because that weekend I went home and I was like, all right, let's boot up Halo Infinite. Let's see if I can pick up a game.
I reckon we all did that shit, eh?
I went home and I tried to pick up a game of Halo Infinite, and everyone I was playing was like Diamond Onyx rank.
I just did tactical because I knew I could get kills in that, and I was doing all right.
Yeah.
So
I have this because I play on PC. PC gaming is very different. People take things very seriously.
Yeah.
So
you could see on the Master Chief Collection, when you load into a game, it would tell you who's on controllers and who's on like keyboards. And it was very evident going into that game who is what. You'd like spawn and die, and then you spawn and then you die. Yeah. And you'd walk around a corner and you'd die. You'd see a guy, you're looking at the back of him and turn around and he'd shoot you and you die, and you're like, motherfucker.
But to be fair, it's that whole thing that Kang was saying. Those games have been out for a very long time. You've got people who have been playing these maps and these modes for that long.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when I was playing, Halo 3 and Halo Reach, and when I had my clans and stuff, we knew where the power weapons were, where we needed to control the map, where the spawns were, all that sort of stuff. And we wouldn't jump into the games until we'd practice our shooting for an hour. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what we used to be like. And
we were playing together. We were like all of us together. There was a big game map where all the vehicles and stuff was. And I remember at some point someone's like, "Oh, Dan, you're doing heaps better," because I was fucking bad. Greg saying he's like, "Oh, I was trying to match people up." All he was doing was just deciding which shitty team had to get me.
Just alternating which team had you and me.
You just haven't dedicated that amount of life playing video games. It's fine.
And it was like, but it's like, they're like, you're doing better.
Me and my mates, when we go into online games now, we actually bully the people that are good at the game. So we make them feel bad.
It goes around to like you're the no lifer.
Yeah. So,
but like, oh, you're doing heaps better. It's like, no, I just found a turret and I shot every bullet out of the turret and killed every vehicle that I shot with it. And then after the turret was gone, it was done.
People just saw Danny was on the turret and left him alone.
I'm very much a classic Halo player, right? I love my big maps with the vehicles and a bit of mixed gameplay. But because of Halo Infinite's population, I tried loading into a big team battle. I was in queue for 10 minutes. I tried again, couldn't find a game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Everyone's on that 4v4 Halo.
Well,
Slayer.
if we can get 12 working on the network, we'll do some big team battles.
Yeah, keen. Like it was actually, I had so much fun. It really reminded me, because even when I've played over the last 10, 12 years, it's always been at home at my computer, and I'm playing with like Connor and some of my old mates. We're playing, but we're still at home by ourselves. Doing it in the room together and being able to laugh about it. And like, when I die, I'll go get a Coke or something, and like I can stand there with the other boys and have a laugh at what they're doing and things like it gives it so much more to think. And plus, I can get mad at some of those games, but I get way less mad when I'm there laughing with the other people as well. You know what I
You
mean?
can also only get so mad with your mates.
It's like, geez, that's such a bullshit shot that you've pulled off.
Yeah.
And then you throw your empty can at him.
Like I can assure you, if I was at home and I had a negative 78 kill death ratio, I would be less laughing about it if I'm by myself. You know what I mean?
There's some minor destruction in the home.
We actually talked about this. I don't know. Like when I was a teenager, I was like a full on teenager. Like I like I don't know, hormonal kind of depression. I had way too much testosterone when I was a child. Like I remember going to the doctors when I was like probably like 13, 14, and he's like, yeah, you can have problem with like erections and stuff when you're older and going bored because you've got too much testosterone now. So it's gonna like bell curve down.
That is not something you want to hear as a teenager.
Yeah, that's future Daniel's problem. Maybe currently Daniel's problem, but we'll see how we go. And I remember I was very mad, a very fucking mad Xbox player. And but the Xboxes were built very different back then. So it's like I used to have a big CRT TV, like with big glass, like dome front, right? And then when I had an Xbox One, and they were like, I feel like everything was built to last still at that point. Not
or at least to resist a controller being thrown at them.
Yeah.
Everything was a big chunk of plastic.
Yeah. And like the controllers, like especially the Xbox One controllers, those
the Duke.
first things were hectic. I remember
The
like
OG Xbox controller was just kind of oval shaped.
You can buy those specific size controllers. They're called the Duke, and you can get them for current generation consoles.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I was like, but I remember I getting so mad, and I would throw the controller at the TV, but the controller was super strong, and the glass TV is super strong, so it would like pelt the glass and then come back at me, and I'd have to dodge out of the way of the thing, and like the controller was like eventually like missing chunks of plastic here and bits there, and it was like very much like angry child needed to learn how to like deal with his emotions, Daniel. And
Did it help? Did throwing the controller help?
In that moment, yeah. But then
It gets a lot worse when you suddenly had wireless controllers that didn't come back.
Well, I don't think with modern technology you could do that now. I'd throw one current gen Xbox controller and the thing would break apart.
Yeah,
they're
break
not built
apart,
the same,
or
right?
you'd have stick drift or a button that wouldn't release. Or,
Yeah, but those things survived like nuclear holocausts. It's like crazy.
Nowadays, you hold a controller in your hand, you can almost feel like you can break it.
You can break it.
squeezing
Absolutely
it.
can break it.
So you describing that kind of like angry hormono.
Hormono.
That's still current me playing video games.
Is that your gamer tag, Kang? Hermono?
Oh man, I should change it over.
I like the idea of like Kang's gaming room. It's just like it's a monochrome white room, white carpet. There's a desk just dead center in the middle, and there's just a computer and the setup there. But all over the walls is like blood stains and like black marks where things have been thrown against it.
No, that doesn't work. Where's his racing ring going to be?
That's true. Well, he does. You have to pack it away, so he has to set that one up.
I have to pull myself away from competitive game these days because I kind of came from an environment where like all my mates, we played pretty competitive video games. So the competition was the enjoyment of the game. There's so many games I've had to walk away because I realized I wasn't having fun with it. I'm just there because it's competition.
No, one of the key things for me is realizing that I'm terrible and now I have fun.
Yes, 100. Now, as I've got older, I accept I'm probably not getting better, right? So this is fine. It's funny. It's funny now. It's funny how bad I am. And at least if I'm playing with people that I like, I'm guilty to not being a fucking dickhead. You know what I mean? Where it's like someone online be like, fuck this guy.
I think
but like, that 12-year-old kid in Japan doesn't give a fuck about me.
One of the funny things is I've just gotten back into Rainbow Six, playing that with my nephew and his mates because they needed like a fifth. And because I was so used to dying, I just went, fuck it, I'm going to take the camera guys and I'm just going to place cameras in really cool spots and be helpful. Nice. And literally, it's just like the idea was I'll die and then I'll tell you where they are. And we started winning just based off that.
Is that how? So is that a class? Like you drop cameras and other players
there's
can see
particular
through it?
characters that can put up cameras and things like that. So the ones basically they just basically let me be two characters, so Valkyrie and Zero. And these guys are literally ones that put cameras on the map so you can spot the players. And then, you do call outs based off that.
Rainbow Six is a team v team game where a lot of team coordination is required because you die very fast. It's class based, and the idea is that it's effectively think of it as attackers versus defenders. Defenders have to defend a site. Attackers to breach the site. And then because of the classes, everyone has roles. It's actually I played Rainbow Six Siege very, very competitively for like 6 years. I consider it a very, very good multiplayer game. Don't play it.
I like it. The concept's very cool.
It's a top tier fun game.
Yeah.
But there's so many different levels. You can go in there and you can play with people who are to repeat a Yahtzee term, pants on head backwards retarded.
Are we allowed to say that word anymore? Greg, getting
no, don't take the retard word away from me.
Sorry. And then you get these people who are finding this tiny little pixel hole in the map that they can shoot from the exact opposite side and nail you with one bullet.
Rainbow Six is a game with an extremely high skill ceiling because the original intention of Rainbow Six was a tactical style game. Think of it as like you're playing like a SWAT team. You know, you can break through walls, have different types of attacking angles. Everyone's on microphones.
I really like that. I'm sure I've heard this term Rainbow Six Siege, obviously, but I've never come across the game. But that sounds really cool.
The game has evolved a lot.
It's got a steep learning curve and it's got a high ceiling. But if you just go in there and have fun with your mates, expect to lose a lot, expect to die a lot. But over time, it just becomes fun.
Yeah. Is it only multiplayer, or can I play some bots?
So they have some bot modes.
It doesn't count. Those bots are not. Those bots are barely even code.
They've changed it. It's not the white masks anymore. You actually go against bot operators,
but not a.
But it's not.
It's not a clear indicator of the game.
Test. Yeah.
I just need to win. I don't need it. I'm just trying to get some dopamine out of you. Know what I mean?
I played. Here's an example. I played Rainbow Six Siege so much I gave my right wrist RSI.
Yeah, sure, gang. It was the Rainbow Six Siege, right?
It got to the point
the
where
RSI stands for Rainbow Six Injury.
Yeah, that's really good. I should use that. But me and my mates, we used to stay up playing.
Because you could edit it and cut what he said out. Just now you say the joke.
Steal it. Yeah.
It's definitely not from the masturbating guys. It got really bad because the super try hard in me would play very, very sweaty, and I would only play with mates of mine who are really good at the game. I got to the point where at late in the night when the population was low, the only people we're playing against were the oceanic teams.
Yeah. So they're practicing on your carcass.
Yeah, and I was getting destroyed.
Well, that's like when I play a lot of Call of Duty because that's what my mates were playing, and it's like, I'm not very good, but some of my mates thought they were really good. So then we would join groups, and because they're like popular dudes, they'd end up with like groups of other people that were good, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm really good," and I play with it. I'm like, "Neither of us are good." And he'd be like, my mate would be like, "Come on, man, like you sort your shit out." I'm like, "Oh shit, it's the same, bud."
So I'm really you get the toxic players who sit there and you've got like the best kill death ratio on the team, and they're sitting there going, "Man, you should have won that. This is all your fault. You know, if you didn't steal my kill, and I'd be doing way better than you."
But I'm still learning how to fucking reload, so I don't know.
So the LANs actually sound like a super fun way to get a multiplayer experience, but also kind of take the edge off.
I also 100% when we talked about like top 3 want to see on LAN, like Super Mario Kart and stuff like that has to be there as well.
Well, we've done a couple Super Marios. They're a lot of fun.
I'm very keen to bring that back. Like I'm a big Mario Kart together kind of guy, so I'm definitely keen to do more. Like what we talked about before, doing maybe more on the next public holiday, which we definitely will do, but they're a bit spread out. So I want to try and phone in a couple more somewhere in between. Like I'm very keen to do this again pretty soon. Like it's a good time for us to be able to get people together, eat some burgers, and like have some people in the community that aren't normally around as well. So I'm definitely keen to
I have a story for my voice just fucking cracked. What the fuck is that?
My voice always just went, and then yours is going. What's going on?
Oh my god!
We're all hitting puberty, boys.
We're going back in time. Oh
no! Anyway, so I was playing
my first experience with Super Smash Bros. The Nintendo game. I was in the Nintendo shop in Melbourne on a hot day, and they had like above an EB Games in the CBD was a Nintendo shop. 12-year-old me was like, "Whoa, this is the best thing ever." And I went into that shop, and they had a demo version of one of the Smash Bros. And I was playing and having fun, with the game and stuff. I remember like a 27-year-old dude, just a full-blown adult, came by and was like, "Hey, I'll give you a game," and he annihilated me. Just like no mercy.
He's like, "Fuck this little kid."
Fuck that guy.
not even any pointers or anything like that. It's like, okay, I'm over here.
Yeah.
This is what I'm
What
about
was he
to
trying to
do.
prove?
Get your blocks up.
So you suck. I think you proved it.
Maybe he permanently set my brain in the way now. Now I have to play games competitively.
True.
So how many 12-year-olds have you destroyed in video games?
Context. You know what? I came from a generation where if you hadn't hit puberty, don't you dare use a microphone, because you just go online and people would just shout insults at you.
Oh, yeah.
living shit,
We used to just call them squeakers.
Yep,
Because they come on
squeakers.
and it's like, yeah.
Squeakers.
Yeah. Oh, we got a squeaker.
I remember because I was around for the inception of like phone cameras, I guess. So I remember people like sharing photos of themselves on like their Motorola flip phones, and it was like the dodgiest, like tiny little image pixel photos, and people were getting bullied at school about looking like ugly or something in a photo. And I'm like, how did we even see what was on those photos? Like, it's like
It's only 12 pixels.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, now I can't imagine what kids like Lucas' age are going through now. Everything is like super high graphic, like ultra like HK HD or some shit. I don't even know how you say it. But it's like before we would bully each other over like 12 pixels on a thing. Now you can see the kid's pimple inside his nostril. Like what's crazy? It's too much visual. You know
Just
what I mean?
reading the DNA on the photo.
We need a little bit of like ambiguity to get us through high school, where there's like pimples and like all that kind of, and mustaches and shit,
Absolutely.
Like, I look at Lucas's little like bum chin beard thing that's going on his chin. It's just like 5 wispy pubes. I'm like, man, you gotta pluck them out, G. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm a ginger. That's what I've got now. And I'm 45.
Yeah, like my mate Connor playing Commander tonight. He's got the fucking most homeless looking beard ever. And he's like, does it look bad? And I'm like, yeah, it looks horrific. Like, you should clean yourself up. But he's like, no, it's growing. It's like all patchy and he looks like a pirate who's about to attack you. And I'm like, sure, man.
Just call him Pirate Connor,
Yeah, I don't know why he keeps asking my opinion all the time. He's like, I got to cut up. Does it look better? I'm like, no. It looks terrible. I'm a good friend, so I'm going to bully you and tell you the truth. Sorry, Connor.
The landing thing is super nostalgic to me, because I was in that really cool period of time where like laptops were super present in my school, and it was an introduction to laptops, and there wasn't a lot of school security. So we had a lot of LANing between on the computer network.
Yeah.
There's a very obscure game, which, shout out if you know of it. It's called Tremulous. It was an open source multiplayer game that we all played at lunchtime. It was a humans versus aliens game where it was a first person shooter, but the idea was always had base building. And the whole point of the game was either humans or aliens. You have to go in and destroy the enemy base. But also it was base building involved, so everyone was building defenses while trying to attack and defend.
Sounds pretty cool.
It was actually an awesome game, and I wish I could bring it back. So if one of these days, I'll try to bring it up and see if we can sort that out.
Is it still around?
I believe the project got abandoned a while back, but the game is still functional.
That's way better than the multiplayer games I played when I was in high school. That was Scorched Earth.
Yeah?
Have you ever played that?
No.
No,
First time
it's
hearing it.
literally like a 2D game, which you believe would be a precursor to Worms.
What computer was out? What Windows was on your school computers?
Okay.
XP.
XP?
Okay, so when I went to school, they hadn't released Windows 95.
Oh my God.
We were using Novell Networks.
I didn't know you were 785 years old.
Yeah, like it was. I started high school in '92.
I was born in 91.
So I was sitting there. We were using the original Apples. I remember Coles had a promotion where they were giving you collect the red dockets and they do Apple computers for schools. And when I got to high school, they had all those classic Apple looking ones
with the
monocolored screens.
Yep.
Right on the Apples. So we had like an Apple room and we had a PC room, and it was Novell Networks, blue screen. They were all menus. There was nothing like Windows.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Windows was after I finished high school because they
Imagine
they
asking,
filled it out with like original Macs.
Yeah.
Imagine asking someone born in this generation, like, in the 2000s onwards, what was before Windows? They wouldn't be able to answer.
Do you reckon Lucas even knows what Windows is? I wonder if he knows.
Is it just computer for him?
Yeah.
I was early, like we would launch Windows 3.1 out of DOS. So you'd literally have to shut down, log out of Windows, and then tell your computer, you want to shut down, and then hit the button. Like you'd have to go back to DOS before it. Whereas now DOS is a program inside Windows.
Yeah. They took the switcheroo. I started with a Windows 95. My granddad had. Yeah.
I had Windows
95.
2000.
There was that
And then
big
XP.
push, with Windows 95. They did that whole advertising campaign, and things like that. And
They also started like their branding. I think picked up at that point, so that it's like more that logo that you see.
Yeah.
Because then there was Windows 98 and then 2000, right?
2000 Millennium Edition, also known as Mugs Edition,
Mugs edition.
because it was possibly one of the worst versions of Windows that you could get.
Windows
until
kept doing
Vista,
good,
but-
bad for
And
operating
then
systems.
XP, that lasted for a really long time because after XP, the version they made was no good, so they just didn't release it.
Oh, interesting.
So then they went to the next one after
Yeah,
that.
and that was
Okay.
Vista.
Yeah.
The have you seen the charts?
Fuck, there's some like hard memories of like just even the start buttons of those different editions of Microsoft coming out. Like when the start button would move from like the left to then the center, and you're like, what are you doing? It's the whole like your whole world is shifting. Like, it's
Remember when
crazy.
Windows Vista had that screensaver with the bubbles?
With the bubbles.
Because I remember that being a big part of
Yeah.
the advertisement. Was like, hey, advanced graphics in your operating system itself.
I
then-
remember
and then- well, they had-
the pipes is the one I remember in
Yeah.
old school computers.
XP.
Like those pipes like spinning, like going around, like building on the screen.
Or the maze where the screen would go through the maze and you can change the textures of what it was.
Have you seen the charts for computer literacy in different generations? A lot of children born in the 90s and 2000s have a fairly good amount of computer literacy, but all the kids now growing in the 2010s can't figure it out anymore because everyone's used to like technology has evolved to the point where everything is so streamlined and easy where people haven't had to go through that discovery period of learning how things work anymore, and now people just have phones and tablets.
Yeah.
That was astounding to me because I was talking to my daughter the other day and we were talking about the different IP addresses and DNS, and she's like, I don't get it. And I said, well, it's all very simple. It's all based off binary. And she goes, binary? What's binary? And it's just like, this is like the basics of computer networking. We don't touch on any of that at school.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
think it's definitely past
it's
it.
not what a computer is and how to function a computer. It's just how to use different versions of software on a computer now.
Yeah,
And you know, and that concerns me because software becomes obsolete so quick. And so she'd be learning a program, and by the time she finishes high school, that program doesn't exist anymore, or it's not a continuous
I sincerely
product.
think as technology keeps growing and automation keeps going, we're just going to have a generation of people that just use tablets and iPhones.
Yeah.
And then automation such as AI is going to take all the effort away.
I guess it's the same as like to me, it's like having an automatic driver's license, which most people have. You don't need to know how the car works. You just need to know that it turns on and you can get from A to B, right? And
My car drives for me at the moment.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like that. I feel like that software concept is the same. Where it's like it used to be having just to get the computer to work, you had to like crank it up like an old car, and now it works. Now you don't. You can just press the button and the thing does the thing, right?
Not just that, but the computer used to be a place in your home, and now it's with you wherever you go, in your pocket, constantly.
It's omnipotent.
Well, Lucas has only ever used. He's 14 in high school now, and he's never needed to use a computer for anything. It's all iPads. So they've had laptops, but he's never, because he doesn't do any like super scholastic classes, he doesn't need the laptop for anything. I don't know if he knows how to turn like an Excel spreadsheet on or a Word document or anything like that.
Yeah, but neither did my parents.
So we've hit that. The pendulum
Gives
has
them the
swung.
same lessons.
The pendulum has swung back.
Yeah.
And now we're having computer illiterate people again because my parents are the same. Can't figure anything out.
In the scheme of like history, though, that's such a short window of people who are computer literate. Then you know what I mean? Like it's a tiny little window of people that know how to use computers.
But I think that's what it was. It was like computers were new, and you got people like me who've just gone, computers. Let's have a look at this, and getting in. And because computers were in that developmental stage, we were learning those developmental tools. And then as we've moved away from it, everybody's trying to make things that are user interface friendly. And look, as I told you, I used to work at Harvey Norman's in the computer section, dealing with returns and stuff like that. And your average computer person is an idiot.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't
think the
mean
average
that
person's an idiot, so it's okay.
I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean the quantity of items that were coming back, I would easily say 90% of them were because someone did something to a computer and it was never
Like
a fault
user
of the
error,
computer. Yeah. So
I get that. I think the general sort of like of humanity is because you get good at the one thing you do, and then it becomes like, oh well, this is obvious that it's like this. So then everybody else seems stupid because they don't know anything about the thing you're doing.
Yeah.
But then if you migrated 1 degree to your left, and then you would now in their situation, you're like, fuck, I don't know anything about this. Then you look stupid to that person. You know what I mean? It's like that general thing is like the technology is like I've tried to explain things to both my mum and my nan and my dad on this technology stuff, and they know nothing about it. But it's the same thing as like if you go 1 degree to left, and my dad had to like show me how to use like, I don't know, change the oil in my car, he'd be like, what are you fucking talking about?
I'm completely with you there. My father-in-law looks at me with disgust whenever I ask him a car question.
I remember one of my my first car was a Suzuki Swift, and it was just like I wasn't very kind to that car, and my dad was so angry one time. He's like, I can't believe you've not checked the oil in the water. And he's all mad. He's huffing about, and he's moving around the car, and he checks like the oil in the water, and I'd never done it, and it was like perfectly fine. He was mad. He was even more mad that it wasn't a lesson for me to learn.
Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? I was never told that cars needed water and oil.
I feel like you should just know that.
I fully seized up an engine.
Whoa.
Was it the
oil or the water?
I have no idea. The engine just stopped turning, and I had someone say, okay, do you do water? Do you do oil?
Yeah.
And I go, do I need to do those things?
Well, the worst DIY car thing I ever had was like I've got like an Audi A4, which any boards member would see it standing outside collecting dust because it's a fucking piece of shit. I hate you, Audi, and fuck you. And anyway, if you're gonna sponsor us, that's fine. But if not, fuck you. But
dude, if a car manufacturer wants to sponsor us, we'll take it.
You can put your
Honda, you guys are
decals all
going, don't
over
worry
it.
about
Equal parts your car dealership and Northern Boards branding on it. Danny will drive it.
Yeah, I should just put a dealership sign outside and pretend we're a dealership. But I was going through a cooling system issue, and I'd have to pull over on the road when it would overheat and putting coolant in it. It was constantly burning out coolant, so I was constantly doing it. Anyway, one time on the freeway, I'd pulled off just like up here at Burns Beach off the freeway. I was on, and I pulled over, and I, took the thing off. Yeah, thank you, Greg. And I took the cap off to fill up the coolant. I filled the coolant in, and then I wanted to put the cap back on, but I fumbled the cap and it fell down into the motor. And I couldn't move the car because I had nowhere to block the cap.
And everything is hot as hell.
Everything's hot as hell. You can't drive. I can't get in there. I can't physically even get into it. It's fallen into like a tiny little crevice way down in there. And I can't drive the vehicle now because I would drive and the coolant would just spray out everywhere. So I had to call RAC, and RAC had to come out, and they dismantled all the bottom of my car, because it has like little plate things under this so you don't get rocks and shit up in it. Yeah. So they took all of that off and then fished it out with like a metal like clippy thing, it's like one of those things like old people have to like pick things up off the ground.
Like one of the grabber tools.
Yeah, like this metal like wiry grabber tool. They had to get it from underneath, and I'm just like, it was like this whole. I think I was on the way to pick my sister up from somewhere, and it was just like a whole 3-hour thing with just like RAC having to come out and rescue me, and I was like,
You had the exact thing of anytime you're working on a car, it's like, just don't drop anything. Don't drop anything. There's a video on the internet where a mechanic, with a GoPro, he does like vlogs and he talks about cars and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And while he was unscrewing like a nut, it just fell into one of the pipes inside the engine. And it was this whole like ordeal of dismantling the entire engine to find this one little nut because you can't leave it in the car. It would break.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for me. I'm uncoordinated on the best of days.
Yeah.
I would never be able to do that. I need somewhere where I can drop shit.
Mm-hmm. That's why I stick to computers.
Yeah.
It's safer. It's easier.
It's funny. I mentioned this before. It's like when we're running through topics, it's like at the moment, because my car is dead, I've been borrowing Connor's car. Connor's a lovely friend of mine. He's very generous, and he's lent me his car to use. In the time that I've had it, the front right indicator and the back brake light had gone out. And then on the way home last night, after the boards on Wednesday night, I was driving home, and this car comes flying up behind me, like flying up. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? And I'm like already doing 80 in the 80 zone. And I was like, what's the fuck guy? And I was like, normally I'd maybe like be a little more flippant and like slow down a bit more to be like, fuck you, man. But it's like, they come flying up behind me around another car. And I was like, fucking dickheads. And then the lights go on. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting pulled over. So they pull over, and it's like the cops like to do their random breath test. And then like, is this your car? And I'm like, no, it's my friend's wife. So I promise. And like they were like, oh, because you got both lights out, it looks like you're a motorbike, obviously, because there's only car lights on one side of the vehicle. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, man. And then anyway, I had boxes in the back of my car with some miniatures in it, and the other cop's like looking with the torch through the back of the car while the other cop's breathing me, and he's like, hey, what are all those little minis on the back of your car? So I was like, I'm being awkward. I'm like explaining like Warhammers and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, it's pretty cool. And like while the other guy's breathing me, I'm like, hey man, we actually have quite a few police that do these games. So if you want to come down and hang out, play Warhammers, I got you sorted. You got to take every small business opportunity you can, you know? So he was like, oh yeah, maybe.
They put you in handcuffs as you're getting put in the paddy wagon. So anyway, so Warhammer 40,000.
So they were very friendly and let me go. And then Connor and I fixed the lights today, just before we played Commander.
Nice. Speaking about Commander as well, Greg, last time you were on the podcast, you weren't playing Magic, and now you are playing Magic.
Well, I had a couple of reminder lessons from Danny that he booked me.
Yeah,
and then I thought, okay, I'll commit. I'll buy a deck.
You graduated, bought yourself a Commander deck. You're in the Commander.
So I've had maybe about 6 matches. Sorry, 8 as of tonight, and I've won one, but every other one it's like been close except for tonight, which
statistically,
destroyed.
if you're new and one win out of 8 games is actually very good.
There's also in Commander, there's 4 people. So the chance of you're going to win is already only 25%. So it's fine. There's got to be, it's more about, do you feel like you functionally did something with your deck in the meantime? Winning is out of the thing. It's like, sit down, have a chat with your mates.
Say deck or dick?
Either one's fine. You know? If you can't win with your deck, you got to submit to whatever's left, right? So
just handle your business.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm going to dob him out a bit, but like Hayden came through on the weekend, and who plays like X with you guys, and he brought some friends to teach them how to play Magic as well. So it's like Hayden went from like definitely not playing Magic ever again to like giving it a try. And then I know he said he came in with you and was like, now I'm hooked again. And then on the weekend he's brought some mates in to like learn
Hayden
how to
was
play.
very adamant.
He did ask me to come and play with him, but obviously, you know, as I explained to Danny, my wife is very adamant that I do one big event a month and then my regular sort of gaming events. So
Hayden was extremely adamant that he was never going to get back to Magic. He reiterated it to me several times. We had
That's like an addict. Like, you know, it's like, I'm definitely not going to realize.
I think we had that one demo game where it was me, you, Matt, and Hayden.
And Hayden,
And, you know, it was actually a fairly interactive game. Everyone had a lot of moments in it. And then the next day, Hayden comes in and he buys a Commander deck. He's like,
no, he built a Commander deck.
Oh, he did. Yes, he was browsing for cards. We got him, dude.
It.
Well, I always like to get into the community and play with the community members, but I don't get a lot of gaming in these days, unfortunately. Even being here, I don't get a lot of it. And I'm leaning a bit more and more to the competitive side of it. So I like to play a bit of Highlander. And I don't mind, like, I'll come in and like get stomped by Riley. Like a Patreon member also, Riley will smoke me with his Eldrise deck at the moment. But I'm happy to take the losses because I can feel every like bit of blood that's punched out of me. I'm like, just get 1% better. You can feel getting coming along, right? Eventually I'll sneak a win or two in. And but I really like that competitive scene at the moment, especially while I've got limited time. And so when I do get the chance to play Commander, I like to do well. And maybe mixing with all the community with some of my decks at the moment isn't the best plan. So it's like I will like to play with like Connor and like Damo and Tom like every second Thursday here at the club as well on the Commander night, and I'll just make sure that I rail them as much as I possibly can because I feel less bad about smoking them into the ground. But when I play with like other community members, I'm like, you should definitely kill me. You kind of touched on this last week, and I was playing a game over on the other side there the other day, and then Elise came up. She's like, oh, I want to play some games with you like at some point as well because you know it's been months I haven't got the opportunity, and I was like, oh, I don't know if you do, Elise. Just let the degeneracy stay over here, and we'll murder these guys. It's fine. But like the same thing was played tonight. It's like in the end we're finishing up, and Damo could have killed me, and I was like, you should kill me. Just kill me. Just kill me right now. And he ends up swinging at Tom because I don't know, bullying Tom's funny. But then the next turn I kill him and Connor. I'm like, you should have killed me, man. I said this to you. I got ya. But you know. You got to take the wins where you can get them, eh?
Command is definitely a marathon, not a race.
Absolutely.
And the good news where you, Greg, is that you've actually picked up a Commander deck with a lot of potential. So a lot of people, Commander decks aren't built equal, and you really don't want one that limits your potential. Your Commander is quite good. It's a green-black one, plays a lot in the graveyard. It's actually very strong. So if you just keep the practice and the reps going, you'll find yourself getting into a position where you'll be winning games fairly regularly.
Yeah, I might have accidentally got a second deck that I haven't played with yet as well.
Which one did you pick up?
Yep.
One of the starter decks, the red-green dragon.
Oh, the dragon one?
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
It's really good, that one, actually.
So,
I like that. Those starter decks are cool. It's like most of the Commander decks now sell for between like $80 and $120, roughly, somewhere there, right? But those starter decks are $40 to $60, and they're a real solid, like, ejection into the hobby for a very like cost-effective amount of money. And they're perfectly good. Like that's part of the whole thing is right. Magic decides how much they're going to charge you for those decks. Some of them can be justified, like the Universes Beyond, because it comes with a addition of they had to pay for the IP. So like the Warhammer and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, they're going to be more expensive because they had to pay.
And they compensate by giving a bit more power.
More power cards, yeah. But then when they print their own decks and those decks are $110, you're like, well, it's the same cardboard. So how are you charging more money? So them coming in with that $40, $60 entry level deck is actually really good, because it had some of these people that I don't think you should have to spend $1,000 to play a game, but that's the hobby we're in. It's no difference if you want to do like RC cars, or like, you do like sports cars, or I don't know, any of the other hobbies that cost $1 billion to get into. It's like, you shouldn't have to spend the money, but that just is the hobby, right? So I like having those lower entry things, and you get some people that come through, and it's a lot more feasible to spend $40 in a deck to try something, whether you're going to like it or not. And the thing is, like it's like any of these other hobbies. Like once you start going, it's kind of like getting addicted to hard drugs, right? The dollars start to eke out of your wallet here or there.
Those starter decks are especially good, because what they've done with the starter decks is very simple, kind of 1 to 2 line commanders, and every single one of the cards has the reminder text.
Far more descriptionary,
yeah. Just so that an absolute beginner can pick it up and give it a go. Because I think statistically, what people have found out, Commander is not supposed to be the starting format, but for many people it is.
Yeah.
And rather than trying to fight it, Wizard of the Coast accepted it and tried to make some starter decks.
They fought it for a long time, but what are we? A Commander like 16, 17 now? It's a lot before they decided they were going to support the biggest part of their hobby, really. So
getting into Commander, did you find it a easy experience, or was there some hurdles?
So, as I said previously, I started buying Magic decks back before I got into X-Wing. So I've still got them sitting in a box somewhere at home. But I had literally forgotten what everything was. So when I started playing again with Danny, it's like, what's this do? What's that mean? What's menace? So it's one of those things where I've got to familiarize myself with it, and I'm kind of taking it bit by bit. As I said, I've only played about 8 games, and I need to probably get a bit more experience with the deck just as I'm using it at the moment, just so I can feel comfortable with it. But it also is, there's a lot of, I'm going to call it bloat in my head at the moment, because there's a lot of different terms and terminology and actions and functions that the different cards and everything do. And because I'm pretty much coming back into this as a newbie, I'm struggling to recall and remember and keep all of the different aspects of it in my head. And
there's so many
what's
keywords.
He do again? And I will literally ask someone 4 times in a match what their commander does, and they tell me each time.
After 4, Greg, that's on you, bud. If it's someone else's, I get that as well.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, remind me what he does
Do you
again.
ever do that thing where you someone's commander's across the table, so you pick it up and you look at it and you read it, and then you put it deck down, and you're like, I didn't retain any of the information.
What did I just read?
Yeah,
I was looking at the picture.
They go to do something, and you're like, I didn't know it did that. And you're like, I just read it 1 minute ago. Why the fuck didn't I retain any information that I just put into my brain? Like, what's going on?
The way I read cards, especially people's commanders, is I'll pick it up, read it, and my brain summarizes the entire tech box, and I'll put it back, and then 10 minutes later they do something, and I'm like, oh no, that's what it does.
That's what I appreciate when we're doing like practice for Highlander, like yourself and a lot of the regulars. If you do like a thing that allows you to see your opponent's hand, what you tend to do, especially in like a practice game, is you put those cards down on the table.
Just before you go on, can you explain Highlander to me?
So what we play in the store is 7-point Highlander, and all the Highlander is referring to as one of each non-basic land card. So that's why EDH is Elder Dragon Highlander. That's what the original name was for, and it was based on there used to be the Elder Dragons were a bunch of 7/7 dragons, so you could kill an opponent with 3 swings by hitting them because they're 7, so you get 21 commander damage. And then the Highlander part just refers to them only having 1 of each card. And I believe that refers to the movie Highlander because he was unique. I'm fairly certain.
Well, the whole quote in Highlander is there can be only 1.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And so you can only have 1 of each card that isn't a basic land. So we play 7-point Highlander, which is realistically like a type of legacy version. So legacy is was originally one of the regular formats. You used to have standard, modern, vintage, and legacy. And Legacy is the oldest one, or Vintage is the oldest one?
Vintage is everything, no ban list,
no
with
ban
restrictions. Legacy is everything with a ban list.
With a ban list.
So Legacy was famously known as the...
Oh, so it's more Vintage than it is Legacy then?
It's more Vintage inspired.
Okay,
but the easiest description would be Legacy because most of the deck inspirations come from Legacy.
Got it. So with the Legacy, the whole thing is like you can play with almost any of the cards, but that also means you can play with almost any of the most expensive cards ever. So with Highlander, like what happens is people play 4 of the best of each slot. So you've got 60 cards, but realistically you've got 20, 30 cards max that are in the deck because you're really just going to hone into this.
The singleton format expands out the metagame range.
It makes the deck building a lot more interesting. It means the matchups are more interesting. When you're sitting down, you're playing best of 3. Each game can be slightly different to each other rather than the same thing over and over again. It just makes the format much more interesting than seeing the same 3 or 4 decks and the same 5 cards through a whole day of play, right? 7-Point Highlander deals with the top cards by putting a points item on each one of the cards. So something that's really good, like a Time Twister, which is just gives you an extra turn for like a very small amount of mana. Is
You're thinking Time Walk.
Time Walk, sorry, yeah. And it gives you an additional. It's like that's got worth more points than something that is like, I don't know, further down the line. Like I think a Soul Ring example is the 3 points as well. Yeah. So it's because that gives you such a massive advantage, such a short period of time. So it really and then your maximum of 7 points. So you got to build within that. And what it does is, it adds another layer to the deck construction, which I think is super important because it means going in, the building is very different from player to player, and it makes the meta a little bit more shifty. So when something goes pointed up or pointed down, it can really change how effective a deck is and whether you can even really afford to have that card in the deck.
If you play, say, Warhammer or tabletop war games like you do, Greg, you're aware of a point system. And the point system is how they balance the high-powered cards.
Yeah.
And because the shifting of the points is how they adjust the metagame and keep things fresh. So alongside new releases, the points changes are almost just exciting because that will change how the metagame landscape shifts and some decks get stronger or weaker.
Yeah.
Before so that actually sounds more like my jam because that's how I used to do it.
I would highly recommend it. 7-Point Highlander is by far my favorite format. Before it was called 7-Point Highlander, it was actually called Australian Highlander. There's a few Highlander variants that exist globally. The main one is Canadian Highlander, which plays with a 100-card singleton and has a different point system. But the problem is that Canadian Highlander plays still very similar to Commander. And then you had a lot of Australians here. For some reason, we really liked the idea of playing 1v1. So we decided to, in Australia, a format called Australian Highlander came out, and it was a 60-card format, and it plays a lot more like the classic 1v1 formats.
I think being such a big fan of Commander and then going back to 60-card formats, which is traditionally what I always played before, I actually enjoy it a lot. Just the process of like shuffling the smaller amount of cards and having the less cards to deal with, not having to construct that entire deck, having a bit more functionality back down, but not too much to having 4 of each one in the slot. It really makes a much more streamlined gameplay, I feel.
Commander plays like a board game. You sit down with a couple mates, you have some fun, everyone's trying to do their own thing. It's like an engine building board game, right? People are trying to make that Rube Goldberg machine of interactions and machines and blah, blah, blah. This interaction, this thing, just trigger, bam, my commander. And it's really fun, it's cool, and it's a beautiful deck building experience. Whilst the 1v1 formats like 7-Point Highlander, it's more like me and Danny are getting in a boxing ring.
Yeah.
And we're going to rumble it out.
What I really like is because of the point system, I can play a red-blue deck that focuses on counter spells and casting like instant spells, and you can play a red-blue deck that focuses on counter spells and casting spells, and we can have completely different decks based on which things we choose to spend points on. And it's like both can be functionally very good. There's always going to be like a top meta of like what is like a best in slot, but you can shift something out and it can functionally change how your deck is going to compete against someone else's just based on what you're doing. And I really, really like that there's so much. I don't have to sit down on a night or like on a Highlander day and look at everyone else's decks and be like, oh, well, I'm going to play these maybe 1 or 2 decks today, so I can just meta chase around that and not have to worry about too much about it. Or for me to compete, I also have to join this group of other people playing mostly the same deck. And I really like that because in all competitive anything, it's the same as like car racing, the same as anything. It's like usually there's something that's the best at the thing and like they're going to win. It's like the F1. It's like the F1 teams, usually it's always the same team wins every year because like they just have the best car.
Right now it's Mercedes-Benz and Red Bull.
Absolutely, yeah. And then maybe 5 years from now, someone will like invent some sort of new thing or like some new like carburetor or some nonsense like that. And then they win for the next 3 or 4 years until someone else invents the new thing. And it's like most card games are like that. And that's formulated by standard as sets go in and out. Whereas like in this Highlander format, it's all self-governed, I guess, and it's constantly shifting. And I think what happens a lot with card games is the meta here in Perth or even just within our store is different to the meta that plays over East.
It's an extremely local based meta.
Absolutely, yeah. People start playing, we're like, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of counter spells at the moment, so I'm going to start shifting to things that are maybe more counter spell like safe, or it's going to be, oh, I'm going to play some more like counter spells so I can like at least keep some of myself on the board. Whereas you might go to Queensland where they've just had the championships for Highlander and their meta is very different. So we're looking at those decks and being like, what can we learn how to do better here? But you might be looking at the top list that wins out of 100 people, and you go, this is not going to be no good to me here at all.
It was CanCon. It was in Canberra, and we had our. So it's one of those things where I have a very, very soft spot for 7-Point Highlander, because when I first started playing 7-Point Highlander, there was no one playing it in WA. It was one of those like
Kang's just sadly playing by himself. GG's June Love, no one's talking to him.
People have talked about Australian Highlander, and like people have in the past attempted to get a community up, but I remember being kind of disenfranchised with Commander and wanted to give 1v1 a go, and it was me and a few other mates in Good Games Joondalup kind of kicking it off. And from there, people used to laugh at us for playing 7-Point Highlander. People were like, it's not a real format. There was nicknames, Skyland or whatever it was called. We were like, give it a rest, whatever. And then we kept pursuing, and now you see 7-Point Highlander is played in north of the river.
Yeah, multiple shops.
Every shop has people playing 7-Point Highlander now, and it's really, really cool to see. And from that, we've also now reached in Canberra, we had our first like national championships, or we had over 150 people rock up for a 7-Point Highlander finals. It was really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see a local Australian-based format starting to make waves. And the end goal is to eventually reach a point where it's officially recognized. But, we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyway, what were you talking about when I asked you to explain it to me?
Don't know. It's funny though, because we had a very similar initial trajectory at the start with Tiny Leaders, which is like a similar kind of format. It would be, you still have a commander, but it's 1-on-1. Everything in the deck has to be 3 mana or less. And the deck was traditionally only 50 cards, but 60 would have been fine. But it's like, but you still have this commander that you'd pull out of the commander and then 1v1 each other. So some people would build like a really strong deck so they didn't have to rely on the commander, and you could just pull the commander in when you need a creature. Other people would really build like real functional decks around the commander so that it's like a pivotal part of the deck. And the thing is like, it's not like a format that's supported by Wizards. If you look up like because when we run an event, you run it through the Wizards website, and they let you choose what it is. So like when we run Highlander, we put in that we're doing a legacy event, and they're saying this that we do the Tiny Leaders, and we were getting between 15 and 30 people on a Tuesday night playing this hobby, and it was very, very cool. And unfortunately, when I moved up north, that a lot of that petered away, and you just don't see it anymore. But globally, it's not getting seen alone. But we're just like this shining pinnacle. I think there was I remember there was a place in Massachusetts that was running it. There was a place in Britain that was running it, and there was us. And we would like talk to each other about like who would ban things and what was going on. And like years later, I bought like the URL for like I think it was called Play Tiny Leaders. I bought it. I was like, I'm gonna revive this. And I think it was probably at the start of the boards really when I did it. But it was this cool thing where I'd send them like what decks are being played in the meta, and it was like very much like trying to push this thing. And it was like I could see it getting legs, but just once you lose pivotal parts of that community, you need that support and that shove. And I'm sure it's the same thing with Xbox. Like with X-Wing, like you and Andrew and stuff with like such pivotal members of that community. They become tentpole members that everybody else like gathers around. And once, even if your life gets busy or you get a new job, when those people tend to pull out of it, or you just don't have the support that you need, it falls away quite quickly. And it's such a shame because like it's not everyone has jobs and things to do. It's not nobody wants to come in and be that community leader and put that effort in. But without that effort, a lot of those things cycle back quite quickly. So
it's one of those. It's pretty hard because I think Tiny Leaders had a chance, but you see it a lot where the reason why 7-Point Highlander strives on and continues to grow is that there's a dedicated group of like council members that keep updating the rules and keep the game going. Where if that disappeared, 7-Point will also disappear as well. Without the updates, the game can't survive. And we found that with Tiny Leaders, I think the original founding members of the format eventually abandoned it around 2018.
It was like a Bebo website that had been being updated and stuff like that. And I was like,
MySpace page.
Yeah. It's like once those go away and the people stop doing it, it's like, now the ban list stopped getting updated and the points list stopped getting like moved around. And like then there was kind of a thing where they started allowing like to try and reinvigorate the format. They actually brought in being allowed to use planeswalkers, and then not long after that, that's when Brawl, like MTG Brawl came about, which was a Wizard sanctioned format that they kind of just shoved in and they didn't force after that. Brawl is like because you're new to coming back to Magic. Brawl was when they bought, I think it's 2 different names, but when did they bring in Corvold? What was that called?
Oh, that was Conspiracy.
No. The one with the
that was Brawl decks.
So that was Brawl decks?
Brawl decks were pre-constructed. So when Wizards of the Coast was trying to launch a new format, this was right before Arena came out.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced a 1v1 Commander format, and the way they introduced it was, hey, here are these 4 precons you can buy, and they're 60 card singleton decks.
Was it Conspiracy or Throne of Eldraine? I think it was Throne.
It was right during Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah, because there was like there was the fairy one, then there was Corvold, but the thing
There was
is,
a Knights one, and then there was it was a Bant commander with a bunch of lands and stuff. He's pretty silly. Chillane.
They bring this format out that's essentially tiny leaders, but with like more broader rules. It allowed planeswalkers to also be leaders, which was kind of like lame. I think it didn't function the way that the game was. It was supposed to be the tiny leader.
The format super hard by introducing cards like Arcane Signet and those commander decks.
That's what I was going to touch on.
Strong.
Yeah.
Those precons, and then people were kind of umming and ahhing why Wizards want to launch a new commander format, and then Magic: The Gathering Arena comes out and it makes all sense. It's essentially they're trying to introduce the commander format into the Arena client.
But what really happened was these decks came out and they had a thing called Arcane Signet, which is a 2-mana rock. It comes in and taps for any color, but it comes in straight away. It can tap for any color, and it became the most outside of Sol Ring, which is its own tier of card. It's like the top of the pyramid is the Sol Ring. It become the closest thing to that in forever. So people bought out these cards and they were selling for $40-$50, and the deck was only $30. And with the Arcane Signets, they're selling for $30-$40 on, like, you just straight away, everyone's buying the decks out. But also Corvold became one of, if not the most competitive.
It's the most popular commander in those colors.
In those colors, yes.
And
so it's red, green, black.
Is top 3 in her colors.
Absolutely, yeah.
Chillane is top 5.
Oh, it's Chillane. I forgot about Chillane. Chillane was awesome bullshit as well.
Those commanders were very strong.
Yeah, very strong. And so people brought them straight. The people we lost tiny leader players to Brawl because it's effectively roughly the same game, but now you're splitting the community. And then the people that wanted those decks, they just bought those to split up to use for Commander. So it's like the game itself couldn't even be supported by itself because they just functionally created the greatest Commander cards for a long time.
The meme was,
and people just ripped them straight out of there.
The meme is, so Commander is 99 cards plus your Commander, so you have 100 cards. And then the joke is it's actually a 98 card format because you have Sol Ring.
Yes, correct.
And then it became a 97 card format because it's Sol Ring, Arcane Signet.
And then it's like, and then you're right. And it's like, it becomes, those numbers get shorter and shorter and shorter because then something like the One Ring gets printed, right?
Yeah.
And arguably, there's no reason you wouldn't put that in every single Commander deck. It should really just be in every single Commander deck. The only thing that makes it not that is that it's a $100 card. And I think that's good because at least you don't see it in every Commander deck. But the Sol Ring, the Arcane Signet, there's a few of those.
You could argue that cards like Mana Crypt also for that spot.
Yeah. And again, luckily they're priced out. Not good for people who can't afford it, but I think it's better than seeing them all over the place. Something.
So I'm pretty sure I've got Sol Ring and Arcane Signet in my...
In a lot of precons now, they're just printed in there. Yeah.
They needed to saturate the market with Arcane Signets. So every precon now comes with an Arcane Signet.
And I think what Kang's touching on is like when it's like, now it's a 97 card. It's like each one of those takes away some of the imagination of what you're doing to build your own deck. It's like if you're drawing a piece of art, but I'm like, well, it has to have these mountains in it. Now, like your painting that you're making, just every painting is going to be about mountains. And it's like, I feel like that's very similar because it's like you start going down the line of like, well, I may as well do these other like mana rocks, and like there's always been an argument about mana rocks that cost more than 3 because Arcane Signet and Sol Ring are so incredibly good. It makes something that taps for 3 and does something way less appeasable. You're like, well, this is terrible, but it's not terrible. It's just this other thing is like the bar is too high.
Yeah. And I can draw parallels to that with like X-Wing, where they brought out they changed the points building, and literally what they did was they made it so that the pilots cost X amount, and then they get a certain amount of loadout as opposed to having your overall spend on that, which means that people just optimize the builds, and then that's what they are. There's no more creativity with it anymore. That's just what happens.
It kind of sucks it out of the game, right?
Yeah.
And like if they want to print a better card than Sol Ring, which they did, which is called Jeweled Lotus, and they made it a huge thing. I've got a 6-foot playmat that has a Jeweled Lotus on it. It became the chase card for at least 2 sets that it was in. They printed a set where the entire focus was it was Commander Masters. It was like a master set, so they charge you 3 times the amount of money. The chase card in this is like these different versions of Jeweled Lotuses, and then because it was so good, it became like almost a salty kind of thing. Yeah. And then they banned it in the bannings. And that's actually what created the deformation of the like Commander Council, the previous one. And it's like they try to beat the Sol Ring to make sure that, because they're always trying to increase hype, increase sales. You get to a point where like, well, now it's too good that the community rallies against it and causes like a catastrophic downfall of the system as we know it, like within the game. And as the average consumer, it doesn't affect you at all unless you spend $100 on a pack of boosters. You open a really cool card, and someone on the table goes, "Oh, you can't play that," and you're like, "What do you mean? I spent $100 getting this? What the fuck?" So I think, without being complaining about it, it's not one of the things that we have to complain about it, but it does set, when we're selling a burger to someone, we try to make as much of the experience as positive as possible. Like if we don't have some food available when they order, I try to say, "Hey, we've got everything except for like the hot chicken tonight," or "We've got this," because what you're really trying to do is minimize the amount of negative potential that can happen in interaction. So when if I sell you a booster pack of cards and you don't know what's in it and I don't know what's in it, and then you get a card you can't use, it's a real harsh line to tell someone, you know what I mean? And
every pack that is bought at Northern Boards, I really want them to crack something cool.
Oh, you want it to be good, right? You're like, someone's had a bad day at work and they're like, "I'm going to get some retail therapy," and they spend $25 on a booster pack and they open it and you just see the light like emitting from their eyes, and you're like, "Oh."
But when's that sort of stuff happens and something good happens to someone who's a regular and you see that sort of thing, you share that joy.
Oh yeah, we rally behind it.
Yeah.
There's been several times at all the boards when we all make it a communal experience of cracking packs together, and if someone cracks a really good pack, I'll take a photo of it and I'll share in the groups and stuff, and really make it a rallied. We enjoy what we're doing.
As a store, like as a staff member of a store, that to me that's the ultimate. Like I get to share the dopamine of someone else. I don't have to spend as much money of my own because someone else opens a cool pack and I'm like, that was fun to be around.
That's like being the worst player on the winning team.
Absolutely. I've already spent my entire life savings just being here, so I don't need to spend another $20 on a booster pack.
I avoid opening packs because if I open packs, it means that someone else doesn't have a chance to buy it, especially
I get it.
with the more limited stock stuff. So sharing the joy is part of the fun.
I think it's probably since Lord of the Rings, since I've actively open packs of cards in the store. I financially there's better things for me to be doing than opening my own product. But I really, really like the new Innistrad set. It looks fucking cool. The art setting's awesome. Innistrad's one of my, I would say top 5 settings for it's that classic arcane horror kind of thing going on. So I was I've opened a couple packs and I've opened 3 collector boosters, which is not a lot in the schemes of anything, and I've done exceptionally well in those 3. So I put all the cards in the store binders and I closed my eyes and I had a good time and I left. And I was like, this thing is now I was like, well, if I got some good stuff out of there, I don't want to take that away from customers. I need them to have that experience. You know what I mean? Not me, but I did enjoy opening these packs. And I'd say overall, the general estimated value is quite high for this set. Most people are pulling above the $60 range of what they're opening packs for. And that's not me selling cards to people. That's me being excited about the fact that they've created a set that people are getting value out of.
There's a high amount of just playable cards.
Yeah.
Which is good. The talking about the cracking packs experience here, we had regulars of the Commander Knights. We had Nick and Ryan. They bought a booster box.
Oh yeah, Nick's a classic pack demon.
Yeah. They did the classic things of, hey, we're mates, right? Let's split a box 50-50.
No. Connor and Zach's done that as well. Different Connor, different Zach who play here. They split boxes all the time. It's
splitting the box 50-50 is such a coin toss because one person is going to walk away with more.
Yeah.
And we saw Ryan open his packs and oh yeah, that was so cool. And then Nick starts opening his packs and he's like, whoa, Soren.
So they did it with
Edgar
Innistrad.
Markov. Whoa.
I would never do the way that packs are seeded. There's a certain amount of mythics, certain amount of rares, and they're it's supposed to be random, but there's always going to be a level of
they set a certain amount of pools so that on average you're going to get your money or more money back.
Yeah.
So I would. This is me, but you obviously the most common thing would be to go, all right, this half is your pile of packs and this half is my pile of packs.
Yeah. Wouldn't
you do it like a draft? All right, we'll open one pack. Now you pick one and then I pick one and then.
Yeah, you absolutely can. But I think because of the randomness.
Wouldn't that be a better division up of?
But the packs are still random regardless.
Yeah, it's the same as rolling a dice. It's it doesn't matter how whether you roll the dice underwater or in the sky or on the floor or on the table. It's still the roll of the dice. You could end up with all the good packs and you could end up with all the bad packs. And I'd never suggest doing that. But there's a few guys in here, a few good friends who like to do that. The same thing is Connor and Zach are some young fellas who play 40K in Magic as well. And they split boxes all the time. And these are young guys. They've got young guy jobs. It's they're going to spend a good chunk of their money. I think both of the boys are listening. So hey Zach, hey Connor, what's going on? I'm talking shit about you. when they do it, you can definitely tell which one of them came out of that box better or worse. Like, and the next time the boys are coming, I'm like, oh, what'd you guys get? And someone's far more excited to tell me of their pulls than the other guy. And I'm like, oh, yep.
I don't think I would ever split a box because I know what my dice luck is like.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Let alone box luck.
There's a thing that the
100%.
One Piece players do, and it's actually a benefit of One Piece. Because in One Piece boxes, the good cards are very identifiable. What they actually do is they split value. So what happens is they'll open the box up and then they'll look at roughly the accumulated value of the hop hits. And they'll be like, if you're picking a $90 card, I get to pick cards up to $90 and we match back and forward.
There's a thing that haunts me, right? I don't know if you remember micro machines. They're like tiny little cars, tiny little versions of Hot Wheels or something, I guess. No, not Hot Wheels, but it's like the same concept, right? But they're tiny ones.
Bucket load of micro machines as a kid.
So I remember we were probably like 6 or 7 maybe, and I'm at my grandparents' old house. I remember it so vividly. It's a Christmas, and we're sitting on the carpet in front of the fire at my mum. I think it's Christmas Day or the Christmas Eve or something, and we've got all these micro machines, and there's a pile in the middle. And to make it fair, Mum's got the pile, and me and my brother pick a car, and then he picks a car, and then I pick a car, and then he picks a car. And there was a car that he really wanted, but I really wanted it, and I hope to God that I genuinely really wanted it and I didn't just want it because he wanted it. It's a long time ago, so I don't remember the feeling and intention behind it, but I picked the car that I knew he wanted and he cried. And my little brother's like 2 years younger than me, he cried. And I remember feeling bad, but probably not bad enough. And it's haunted me for the rest of my life. And now whenever I do anything, like I genuinely want other people to do better than me. Like I want them to have the thing because the internal guilt that I've carried for 30 years after that.
Never let you have anything for yourself.
So you heard it right, Greg. If you want to split a box, split it with Danny.
Split it with Danny? Yeah. Oh, Danny, you got that. I would have really liked that. I know Danny's like, here you go, man.
I do like that as the community part, especially like outside of the top end, like really expensive rares. Like the community just get together. Like someone's like, oh, I like really like that common's sick. It's like most people will hand the common over, or like, there's no reason you have to, but like that is a big part of the community. Is like there's a lot of sharing when someone's new comes in. A lot of people will like be like, oh, here, take all this stuff. Like it'd be a perfect way to start. A lot of people don't keep their chaff, so they give us the chaff. But if there's people around that like it, they're happy to just give all the chaff away to them. And there's like, I think that's a big part of the community camaraderie around it. It's just nice. So,
All right, we've reached the hour 20 minutes mark, guys. Any last words? Any last?
I definitely want to we don't talk anywhere about it as much as I thought we're going to, but like I had an exceptional time at LAN. Like I can't thank you enough, Greg, to bring it up and like getting it done. And like I'm very, very keen to do it again. I'm pretty excited. Like we're on the way with Black Sheep, like the other restaurant, but it's going to be a good 6 months at least before we open the like the dining side of it. We're going to open the kitchens for like the Uber Eats and the orders and stuff. I'm pretty keen to get some TVs and set that up so we can do it like semi-regularly, proper regularly. Like I think I could swing like even like once a week on like a Friday night or something, and just see if I can get something going there functionally to Sim, because it'll be good. The food will be available. It'll mean Nem will have someone on a Friday night to hang around with as well while he's waiting for orders to come in and stuff like that. Hopefully he's run off his feet, but it's still nice to have other people around. A big part of being in hospitality as well as is having the camaraderie of a team to like get through the peaks of like sales with, like, when you have like peak dinner periods and stuff. And poor Nem is basically down to the kitchen by himself most of the time. So it is cool that now we've got Sarissa and Lillian, and like my boy's been down there working with them as well, because it's the poor guy is definitely a what do you call, like a person, a
social creature.
He's a social creature. Yeah, he really needs other people there, and the more that he has people with him, the less phone calls I'm going to get during the day as well. So it's like, I think it'd be good to have him like out there, and like there'll be food available. We should be getting a liquor license there, so we should be able to do beers and stuff like that as well, which I think would be a bit of a draw card. So I'm pretty keen to like have a few more lands here, iron out the kinks, see what we need to do it, and then we can push it into like Black Sheep in the meantime while we do that, and do it like on Fridays. I think that'd be sick.
From the Northern Board side, I think our current drafted date for the next LAN will be the long weekend.
Yeah, we're definitely doing the long
March,
weekend.
I believe.
Yeah.
2nd March.
The Sundays. And,
At the moment, that one's easy because most people don't have to work the next day, right?
Yeah.
And I can have. Usually, I'm not working on the truck on the morning on the public holiday, so we're G. But that's to me now. That's so long away. You know, we're
So yeah,
got the
but I
taste.
already
Want
know
more,
how busy
yeah.
my weekends are coming up. So, but the one thing that I did want to happen that didn't happen with this latest LAN was people suggest game types, and we just throw them into Wheel of Name.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they go, here's a map, here's a game type, this is what I want to play, and then we spin it up. Whereas I just went, well, nobody sent anything through. Here's a bunch of standard ones from there, and I put them on the wheel. And then on the day, it's like, I don't want to play this one. I want to do this. It's like, well,
Yeah.
dudes, like I gave you guys the opportunity.
I think for me, it's like a big part of it was that I'd been so long since I had played. I honestly didn't remember what half the things we were doing is, or I didn't feel like I had the ability to have an opinion because I'm not as like educated on it. But now I've got the bug and I'm like fucking keen to get back in there, you know?
Yeah, but everybody's got something they want to play.
yeah.
Like I wanted to do everybody having shotguns and swords. Like, yeah, cool, let's do that.
Yeah, shoddy
You know what
swords
I mean?
is good. I remember like Kang was talking about like whether it's like, you know, we do like catch the flag or something, but Kang would just go around just murdering people anyway. So it's like you can just play your game. You can play Slayer in any game.
Yeah, I just want to play Slayer. I'm a classic TDM kind of guy. But anyway, so this LAN was a fantastic because the intention going in was a casual kind of let's get our feet wet. Let's kind of try it out, see if anything holds up, and everything held up spectacularly. And it was good. So going forward, we can move past, you know, kind of this trial thing and make it a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think we're going to make it a ticketed event just so that we also confirm numbers ahead
Yeah, just
of
cover
time.
the space, get the tickets in.
So ticketed events, lock in a time space, lock in a time slot for it, and we just really
Yeah,
it
and
going.
still do it casual gaming, and we'll mix the
absolutely.
teams
The
up. And
intention
everything
is
like
to
that.
still be, you know, for
Because
fun.
I think if we try and do competitive, and then you know,
Absolutely.
then we've got like 6 Kangs here getting really angry. And, meanwhile, everyone else is like, "What's that guy?"
We'll have to put Kang in with a net around him so when he throws his controller, it can bounce away.
But yeah, but make it like kind of a officially Northern Boards kind of supported thing rather than, because I know for the first event I kind of popped it through the community group as a kind of just like hey post,
Hey, who's
just to be like,
interested?
hey, let's give it a go. My original intention was, you know, trying to just make it more of a community for fun thing, and now that we see the potential, let's just rock and roll.
Yeah, love it.
Absolutely. So
Nice.
thank you very much, Greg, for being on for tonight.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Burgermander for Will.
Yes.
Happy Chinese New Year as well, Kang. Happy Chinese New Year, Greg. And happy Chinese New Year, Will. I know you're not listening, but you know, thanks for giving us another 24 hours notice before not coming on the podcast. But luckily, Greg's a fucking legend and stood up for that. But
Yeah, my wife loved the fact that I've abandoned her to come talk with you guys for an hour or so.
sorry, Greg's wife. Happy Chinese New Year to you as well. And yeah, it's fantastic. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for being here, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Take care.
Bye bye, Greg.